بینرانی بەڕێز جارێکی تریش سڵاوتان لێبێ و هەموو کاتێکتان شاد و کامەران هەر لە دۆهۆکی ڕەنگینەوە لە ستودیۆی کراوەی کوردستان 24ەوە لەگەڵتانێت. میوانی ئەم جارەمان زۆر بەڕێز پرۆفیسۆر دکتۆر براندن ئۆلەری پرۆفیسۆر لە زانکۆ و شارەزا لە دەستوری عێراقیدا. Professor Dr. Brandon, thank you very much for this quick interview with Kurdistan 24. We appreciate that really. It's a great honor for us to have such a person like you with us.
Honor is all mine.
Thank you. Dr. Brandon, let me ask you about the forum. Why this forum? Is it important, or the importance of this forum exactly in this time? And what does it mean to be held in Duhok in Kurdistan? What does it mean that? What's the importance of this forum?
The forum is a wonderful opportunity
Yes.
for specialists on Kurdistan and Iraq to talk to one another in a public setting. We initially had a workshop at the American University of Kurdistan in Duhok, a marvelous institution. Now this is the public part of the forum, which is an opportunity for politicians, scholars, independent journalists to engage in serious discussions, not only of the Kurdistan region and Iraq, but of the wider Middle East. This is a marvelous opportunity, and I'm very proud to be part of it. I think the central question that I'm concerned with is the failure to implement the Constitution of Iraq.
Right.
I played a minor role in advising the Kurdistan region in the making of the Constitution, so I know the content very well, and I'm very unhappy that it has not been implemented.
Okay. Dr. Brandon, as you know, you're a professional person about the Constitution, and you have enough knowledge about the Constitution of Iraq. As you know, the Constitution of Iraq compared to other countries around Iraq is one of the best. But the question is, why the ruler in Baghdad, they don't take this Constitution as it is? They create a problem for themselves and for Kurdistan as well. Why?
I agree with your central analysis. It's a failure of implementation rather than failure of content. And I think there are several fundamental reasons. First of all, in the immediate aftermath of the making of the Constitution, the two coalition partners who'd made it, namely the Skiri party of the Arab Shia and the Kurds, that coalition broke apart, not because of any decision of the Kurds, but because the Dawa party successfully defeated Skiri in the December 2005 elections. And that brought to power Shia who were much more centralist in disposition. That was then accompanied by a very serious intra-Arab civil war, in response to which Shia leaders, particularly Maliki, but not only Maliki, responded by the conviction that Iraq needed to be re-centralized. And that led to an extraordinary amount of unconstitutional authority in the hands of the Prime Minister. It led to the failure to implement key provisions of the Constitution, in particular the failure to create a federal second chamber. You can't have a federation without a federal second chamber. There is no other federation in the world without a second chamber, so this leaves Iraq with an incomplete constitution. The Federal Supreme Court was meant to be legislated under Article 92(2). That has not occurred, so the court that exists, in my opinion, does not have constitutional standing. It has also reached, in my view, unconstitutional and absurd decisions. Its most recent one was to remove the Speaker of the Council of Representatives. In a separation of powers system, it's up to a parliament to discipline its own members. It's not up to a Supreme Court. Okay. That is the second example of non-implementation. If we look at the provisions related to oil and gas, in my view, those were constitutionally clear. The federal government had no, I repeat, no exclusive powers over oil and gas. Instead, the Constitution deliberately created shared powers
Yes.
over existing oil fields.
Yes.
And it left silent deliberately the question of new fields, meaning that in any region, and Kurdistan is so far the only region, that region would be able to develop its own oil and gas on its own initiative. That was unambiguously clear in any reasonable interpretation of the
Right.
Constitution. Why can I be so confident of this? I was asked once to be an expert witness
Yes.
in a London court case,
Yes.
where a London judge decided a dispute between the Kurdistan regional government and a company called Dynasty. And my analysis of the Iraqi constitution and its provisions on oil and gas was agreed by an impartial London judge. So I'm not just giving an opinion, I'm giving a judicially endorsed opinion by an independent judge in an international panel. Then, of course, we have the failure to implement Article 140 of the Constitution,
Okay.
dealing with the possible territorial expansion of Kurdistan. These are just some of the most obvious failings in the implementation of the Constitution.
Right, Dr. Brandon, about the failure in Iraq, the ruler of Iraq. So, after the Supreme Court kicking out the Halbusi as a chairman of Iraqi parliament, so how do you see the future of Iraq? Is it going to be a kind of conflict between Sunni and Shia in Iraq, or we don't see the stability in Iraq? They don't take the constitution. Now there's a tense between Shia and Sunni as well.
So the constitution was a previous equilibrium, a point on which Kurds and Shia in particular could converge, but also some Sunni Arabs. I think it's vital at this juncture that the Kurdish leadership focus on international pressure to implement Iraq's constitution. Personally, my own opinion is that this court should be ignored. It is a biased court. It is a court with no standing under the Constitution, and even if it had informal standing, it's destroyed that by its failure to engage in impartial decision making, not just over the speaker, but over Kurdistan's oil and gas law. So any route forward, I think, requires the Kurdistan leadership to insist on the making of a second federal chamber in the next Iraqi parliament, or indeed in this one, and on legislating for a properly designed, independent federal Supreme Court. There are a whole series of other questions that need to be addressed, but those two are vital for making Iraq a proper, functioning federation.
Okay. Dr. Brandon, thank you very, very much. We appreciate this quick interview with
you're very
Kurdistan
welcome.
24. We appreciate it. It's an honor for us to have such a person,
The honor is mine.
expert
Pass.
like you with Kurdistan 24. Thank you very much. We
Thank
appreciate
you.
that. Binarani Barres, thank you. Binarani Barres أمدي دارشمان لقل صور بريس بروفيسور دكتور براندن أوليري بروفيسور لزاونكو شارزا لدستوري عراقي لردا كوتايات تادي داري شتر شادو بختور بن خواتان لقل